Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. The title is not clickbait, neither is a thumbnail. I genuinely do believe, at least for Titan specifically, there are some fun stuff here for Hunter and Warlock, which we'll get into. But I do think Bungie has released the worst set of changes for Titan. It's not really going to be changing my playstyle literally at all. We'll get into the abilities tuning, but I think Bungie is extremely out of touch with Titan. So yeah, we're gonna get into it. Obviously, we're going to be getting into abilities last. So first, we're going to go into weapons preview. I'm not going to be discussing a lot of these in depth or whatever. So I'm not going to get into the stuff that's a lot of people have already gone over. But Stasis, Freeze, increased Ariana's Vow, and Leviathan's Breath, bonus damage to frozen targets from 5 to 10%, which is nice. Fix an issue where they did not yield any increased damage to frozen targets. Fighting Lion and Elithinum, although primary ammo weapons, will still get the 10% damage bonus to frozen targets. That's probably because they're under the grenade launcher. Now Disorient, I'm not going to talk about it. It's generally useless. I'm going to be real here. Ammo system, I'm not going to be discussing the ammo system, so just clarifying that. Weapon archetypes, sidearms, no meaningful change. SMGs, no meaningful change. Pulse rifles, no meaningful change. Bows, say it with me, not yet though, because what is interesting is for recurve bows, rescale draw time to be slightly faster at base and less punishing if increased, which is nice. Base draw time has been lowered, and high string draw time has also been lowered, which is absolutely phenomenal. Compound bows rescale to be slightly faster at base and higher at stat values, and less punishing if increased. This I do like. Fusion rifles, unfortunately, have gotten a kind of a substantial nerf, because the charge times have all been increased. So, which I really don't like. For me personally, this makes fusion rifles like pretty much a null and void weapon type for me. I'm probably never going to use a fusion rifle again, even if it's chill clip, because now we have shotguns with chill clip on it. So, speaking of shotguns, are any of these actually meaningful change? We'll have to kind of see. Now for rapid fires, added a damage scaler, increased ammo per brick in PvE from 3 to 4 base and 6 to 8 enhanced, which is extremely nice. Lightweight increased damage per pellet, precision increased. Shotgun's got a small little buff, which is nice. Slugs have unfortunately gotten some changes. Fixed PvE damage bonus, increased it a little bit, which is great. Pinpoint decreased damage against players, doesn't really matter. Snipers, reduced received from players. I don't play PvP. Meaningless change. Rocket pulse rifles, base reserves have been reduced and reduced enhanced ammo per brick, which is fine. Rocket pulses kind of need to be nerfed harder in my opinion. Swords, reduced empty sword swing damage, which is fine. Empty sword swings are no longer scaled by melee buffs. This is a typo, Bungie. What are you doing? Empty sword swings are no longer scaled. Okay, but fix an issue where Ascension was activating sword perks. Exotics. Ace of Spades, in my opinion, is the only one in here that's super interesting. Increased extra PvE damage bonus of Memento Mori from 18% to 30%. And then Ace of Spades, Firefly. The particular thing I'm looking at is increased AoE size from 6 meters to 7.5 meters. And obviously it increased the maximum and minimum damage. So also something interesting to note about Ace of Spades, it is one of 2 kinetic ammo weapons, well, primary ammo weapons that are kinetic. There's one of the only 2 weapons to deal a different damage type along with kinetic. The Ace of Spades deal kinetic and solar, and Necrochasm is the other one that deals kinetic and arc. Even though I would rather Necrochasm be arc strictly. There was Hawkmoon. It's still not craftable, still cannot get enhanced perks on it, still not that good without it. Now gives a PvE damage bonus per stack of paracausal charge, now maxes out at 70% at 80k, or 8 times? Paracausal Charge does not include the final Paracausal Shot. I think this is a pretty decent change. Osteostriga, reduce the cooldown of the Poison Burst on Osteostriga, final blow from 4 seconds to 2. Don't care, I will never use Osteostriga. Period. Suros Regime, they just made it to where you can hold reload to swap the special reload, you know, to swap between modes, which is nice. I use Suros Regime in PvP though, but it grants special ammo progress, so it spawns up kills while using spin up, and then bonus heavy ammo progress when using the dual speed receiver. Hunter's Trace rounds now create a small damaging shockwave and exhaust targets on impact. Might be interesting. Touch of Malice, this is not going to change anything. Collective Obligation, no one's still going to use this. Symmetry, I personally like this. Is it going to change it by that much? No. It just builds up more bolt charge. Still Hunt. Buff Still Hunt's golden gun damage will use a Celestial Nighthawk by 40%. Allowed Sniper's Meditation to buff Still Hunt's golden gun shots. I think that's pretty good. Now, Bungie was like, oh, we're changing Wither Horde. All it does is they reverted the nerf to the Wither Horde's autoload. Bungie, in my opinion, if you really want to help Wither Horde out without doing too much, I think you need to either release a weapon mod or release a Foundry or Origin trait where weapons deal more damage to taken enemies. Because at that point, you would obviously use it with Wither Horde, because Wither Horde turns makes enemies count as taken. And then Duality, doesn't matter. Chaperone, not a meaningful change. Ruinous Effigy, Catalyst now grants 30% damage buff to the Trace rifle when killing anything with a Transmutation Orb. Doesn't really matter. Is it Bergen? Special reload, once again, scales with the reload speed stat. Great. Tessellation, y'all can read all of that, but I don't use this fusion rifle, so it doesn't really matter to me. Deathbringer, reduce the spread of secondary cluster munitions after they are created. Doesn't matter. Black Talon's kind of interesting. Heavy attack now suppresses on hits. If target is already suppressed, it spreads to nearby targets. Catalyst on hit gives a 10% damage boost per void debuff on the target for 2 seconds, which is kind of interesting. Added Duelist Trance trait, increased max reserve ammo, reduced heavy attack cost from 3 ammo to 4. Oh, from 4. I think this is going to make Black Talon kind of interesting. This one is kind of interesting, so keep an eye on that. Deterministic Chaos, new effect. Releasing the trigger after Vexademon projectile pulls 12 rounds into the magazine from reserves. Interesting. Worldline 0, still not giving it Eager Edge. So increase the damage instances via Tesseract from 5 to 7. Oh, 40% damage increase. God damn. Reduce the cost of chain Tesseract links. Not gonna use it. Wolfsbane is kind of interesting. Increase damage of light attack by 8.5% closer to Lament or Gust of Swords. I will say that was probably the biggest change for me probably the biggest thing with Wolfsbane that doesn't make it feel that good is you have to spend kind of an absurd amount of time doing light attacks, and it feels like it just doesn't do that much damage. Increase nano assault duration from 10 seconds to 12 seconds, which makes the tornadoes feel a little more forgiving, which is nice. Increase storm NATO damage by 20%. That's pretty good. Retuned axe handles. Increase damage resist on each handle by about 5%, which is nice. Increase damage resist linger time from 3 to 5 seconds. That's pretty good. Reduced internal cooldown on subroutine. The extra nanites from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. That's pretty good. Adjusted damage increase when used on afflicted targets or ramp slightly quicker. It's pretty solid. I think those are pretty good changes to just make it feel a little bit better to use. Wolfsbane is this exotic sword I'm going to be using in the new DLC or whatever, so yeah. Berg's Rangefinder, don't care. Rampage, now this does affect Huckleberry. Now loses only 1 stack of the damage buff when the timer expires instead of using all of it. That is a massive, massive change. That does buff Huckleberry. I love Huckleberry, so maybe we might give Huckleberry a little bit of a shot with Peacekeepers. Box breathing. Now, I do wonder if this is going to affect Whisper, but Whisper has an exotic version of it called Whispered Breathing, and as obviously I do have Whispered Word here. I do actually have, yeah, it has Whispered Breathing. It doesn't exactly have Box Breathing on it, by the way. You can change Field Prep now. I still have not changed it, but yeah, Field Prep is not the best exotic perk to use on it now anymore. But Box Breathing Not Polaris provides a flat 40% buff to your weapons for your next shot's precision damage for all existing weapon types and 30% for new heavy ammo sniper. Okay. Small nerf for scout rifles, that's fine. I don't use Box Breathing on scout rifles. Shot swap, never used. Sleight of hand, don't use actively. Great Tech Legacy, now increased gains for rocket launchers from 10% per rocket to 17%. This one, now no longer activates from explosion caused by perks or from Gallowhorn micro missiles. So this means that certain perks like Cluster Bomb and probably Chain Reaction maybe will probably not be the best on there. Which kind of sucks. But the question is, does Volchek can't count as an explosion, so. But Great Tech Legacy, I'm not a huge fan of the explosion not counting, because, like, come on. Origin traits need to be stronger, in my opinion, than what they are. Okay, they just fixed the thing where Vice was not working on fusion rifles and shotguns. Okay. Don't matter about this. Don't care about this. Okay. So yeah, that's all the weapons. So the weapons that I am that are looking kind of interesting to me is Black Talon, Huckleberry, and Ace of Spades. That's it. But however, am I actually in Wolfsbane? But are those really going to affect how I use and how I build things on Titan? Absolutely not. Now Renegade's armor tuning. Hunter's Graviton forfeit. That's where I am going to get into specific stuff. Now grants improved grenade, melee, and class ability recharge rates for a moderate duration each time you become invisible. Effect stacks up to 3 times. Effect does not deplete while you are invisible. At 3 stacks of the buff, successive triggers additionally grant a portion of void overshield. That's a nice buff. That's a nice buff for Graviton's forfeit. I like that buff. The Oculus granting the effects of Beyond the Veil to allies now also starts their health and shield regen. This only applies to allies and not to the hunter themselves. Shaka's watching. Yeah, that feels like it might be a little bit broken in PvP. Lucky Raspberry for arc bolts, increased projectile lifetime of chain projectile. Okay. Now always applies jolt on arc bolt grenade hits. That's nice. Returns arc bolt energy of any application of the jolt debuff. Okay, that's nice. That's kind of nice. That's kind of a nice little buff for like Lucky Raspberry. I like that. Orpheus Rig, alongside some ability changes coming in Renegades. We've also adjusted how Orpheus Rig handles shadow shots. Look forward to increase super duration from 16 to 20 seconds. That's kind of crazy. So doesn't it no longer refund? Okay. Jedi Jesters. I'm not going to touch that. Titan Exotics! This is where I'm going to have some thoughts. Arbor Warden. Does this affect Arbor Warden at all? Nope. Besides maybe Storm's keeping PvP, getting that active. The Dragoner's last one is interesting, though. But unfortunately, in my opinion, the Solar Wave shit that Khepri's Horde can do is kind of strong and a little bit better. For Dune Marchers. It just sucks that some of the class ability tied stuff is tied directly to exotics, like Khepri's Horn and Hoarfrost, for instance. Increased maximum chain of Dune Marchers. Don't care. Urza Furiosa should now properly gain super energy if damage is blocked. Super energy stored is no longer scale based on enemy difficulty. That's nice. Don't care about the rest of this. Second Chance. Second Chance is kind of interesting because the problem with Second Chance is, just to go into the exotics here, the biggest issue with Second Chance is it has to fight with Doomfake Pauldrons. Because something you have to keep in mind, defeating targets with void damage at all has a chance to grant escalating bonus damage to void weapons. Defeating targets with void melee grants super energy. That includes the shield throw or whatever. While Sentinel Shield is active, defeating targets with the melee attacks recharges shield throw, which extends your super upon hitting a target. That's really good, and most likely you'll already have an anti-barrier weapon. A second chance in charge. Second thing, it grants a second charge to your shield throw melee. Shield throw melee now weakens targets and becomes shield piercing, stunning anti-barrier weapons. When you stun a barrier, your shield throw melee, you gain a melee charge. That to me, that's not strong enough to outweigh Doomfangs. Also considering which one of these does it. Yeah, offensive bulwark. You gain an additional shield throw while in Sentinel Shield. Like, there's no reason to run it. There's no reason to run if for getting the second shield throw. There really isn't. But add spawns Void Breaches on shield throw final blows. Grant shield throw melee energy upon picking up any Void Breach. Void Breaches are not that good. Sentinel Schubers range attack now also weakens when the exotic is equipped. So yeah, I still do not think Second Chance is worth using over Dooming Pauldrons. It's just not. Armamentarium now grants 10% grenade energy on weapon final blow. So you basically kind of have a perma demolitionist. Now reloads the player equipped weapon when using a grenade ability. That's pretty good. I'm really starting to like Armamentarium for Arc specifically. Light Ramparts, doesn't matter to me. Peacekeepers, remember Huckleberry, increased mobility bonus from 25 to 30. Added ability to swap load SMGs. That's interesting. However, my biggest issue is we don't have a special ammo or heavy ammo version of an SMG. I think if we get something like that, Peacekeepers is going to be goated. Please, Bungie, add a special ammo version of an SMG or a heavy ammo version of an SMG. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. Warlocks, nothing manacles. Don't know what this does. Oh yes, charge grenades. I don't charge grenades, so that doesn't affect me at all. So I'm just gonna let y'all read that for once. Briar Binds. Interesting. Now needs fewer kills to max out Briar Bind's Void Soul damage bonus from 4 to 6. Additionally, the Briar Bind's Void Soul now deals more damage based on the amount of time it has been deployed on target. Okay, that's interesting. Storm Dancer's Brace. While Storm Trance is equipped, now grants Bolt Charge for Arc ability hits when Amplify hits. Okay. Storm Trance damage bonus now builds on hits instead of kills. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, that makes it to where you kind of have to choose between that and the Warlock Helmet Crown of Tempest, I believe. Winter's Guile. That's for melees. I don't use this exotic, so I'm gonna let y'all read that. Warlocks. Matadoxia. Matiodox. Whatever. The Mata exotic test piece. Warlocks have long asked for a super damage increasing exotic along the likes of Curious and Nighthawk. We believe that this is less interesting as an effect for a brand new exotic that we could offer, and that we could instead offer this as a new piece of a pre-existing one. After all, that is, what is Needle Storm if not a bunch of supercharged arcane needles? It's not really. It's more of a supercharged threatling spam. Okay. Here's what I will say. Warlocks have way more exotics that refund super energy. Like they have a little bit of a better ability to spam their supers a little bit better than Titans and Hunters do, in my opinion at least. Titans have more things that refund abilities, and Hunters have a lot of things that feed into weapons. You're hitting a target with 5 Needle Storm super projectiles now also increases the supers, so spending Burst. Okay, the burst caused by the super deals radically increased damage to all targets caught in radius. This guard should allow Needlestorm to feel like a damage contender with the likes of Kira's Thunder Crash. Okay. Daybreak plus Dawn Course damage increased by 5%. Total scorch stacks increased. That's going to be a problem in PvP. Okay. In a Gambit. Alright. Again, nothing interesting for Titan, but some interesting stuff for Warlocks and Hunters. Now, they just posted the abilities. I'm going to skip Hunter and Warlock for now so that I can go off on fucking Titans. Bungie is obscenely out of touch with Titan. Solar. While we're happy to see that Titans are enjoying the return of Bog Hammer builds, we're also incentivizing Hammer throw skill shots. So the ability now does bonus damage at range. Impact now increases with range. That has to be tested. That has to be tested. But also, why not buff Show Hammer Strike? Hammer Strike needs something. Needs something because there's not really a reason to use Hammer Strike over Bog. There just fucking isn't. Like, I love Bonk. I love Bonk. Don't get me wrong. I love bonking. I love bonking. But, like, Hammer Strike. Needed. I do think that extra fragment slot for Consecration helps Consecration out mightily. Mightily. However, though, that being said, Solar is in a great spot on Titan. I think the big issue with Solar Titan currently is The exotics are just not that good. Lorelei Splendor has received so many nerfs that it's not worth using at all. Qualifier Heart's not that good either. Phoenix Cradle doesn't really do enough to justify really using it, even as a support exotic compared to things like Void, Arc, and you know what I mean? And Pyragils is just kind of not worth using because the damage is so bad. It's like you kind of have to run Roaring Flames in order to even make the damage even serviceable. So this just as a whole is just kind of dog shit. But Solar as a subclass, I think, is in a great spot. Yeah, as you can see, they only changed a couple things on Titan. Meanwhile, look at the list of shit for Warlock and the list of shit for Hunter. Hunter does need it, to be fair. I'll get into Hunter in a second. Because I have not seen Hunter or the Warlock changes yet. But, like, this is it for Titan, especially Void. Void Titan is not great right now. And look what they changed. They changed Sentinel Shield. They didn't even bother changing fucking Bubble. Bubble! It's one of the worst super. It's the worst support super in the entire game, hands down. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because at least Hunters, y'all Shadow Shot does debuff. And it doesn't block people from shooting. It doesn't block people from shooting. Obviously, Well is fantastic. But holy shit, Bubble doesn't do shit. It doesn't. They changed. Sentinel Shield Super. Now standing behind the shield, now periodically reloads all weapons. That was pretty good. Now grants Void Overshoot to allies behind the shield. Okay, that's pretty solid. Damage bonus while behind the shield reduced from 40% to 25%. That's awful. Blocking attacks now extends Super's lifetime. Blocking attacks and protecting allies now charges shield throw damage. This Super's not worth using at all for support. Bungie. Here's what you need to do. Even though you'll call these buffs, it doesn't do shit. First off, Solar Titan needs help in the exotic department, not the subclass department. The subclass part of Solar Titan is perfectly fine, except Burning Maul could have its damage increased. The exotics are the thing that need the help on Solar. Void, stop trying to make Sentinel Shield a support super. The support super needs to be fucking Bubble. Stop it. And if you want a Sentinel Shield to, have some sort of support aspect, the damage increase should have been left at 40%. You are missing an entire person for damage. Which means you can't do Thunder Crash Rocket Izanagi's. You cannot do bait and switch linears. You can't do any sort of better damage. You're losing a whole ass person on damage. There's 0 point in running this over Lunafaction boots on a Warlock. And I would argue at this point, reload speed is not an issue in the game right now. During damage. I'm gonna just be real. Stop trying to put Sentinel Shield into the support. Does anybody remember the Tractor Cannon Sentinel Shield meta? That shit was fun as fuck. That shit was so fun. That did actually really well, but it also did boss damage a little bit too well. So, fuck. Make Sentinel Shield throw just volatile on hit. That's all. That's all you would need to do. That's all you need to do to it. Sentinel Shield is in a perfectly good spot. It does have 2 exotics that work really well with it. However, it does have other issues. But anyways, it's just fuck. Stop doing this. You're so out of touch. Why did Bubble not receive any changes here? Why? And for Arc. Looking at Fist of Havoc's CPS, it could use a damage boost. No shit, Sherlock. No shit. Arc, Fist of Havoc has been the worst super in the entire game for so long, with 2 exceptions. The Hunter Void one, Spectral Blades, is awful. I would argue, though, Void Warlock's that weird blinky one that I can't even remember. Nova Warp. That exotic's the worst in the entire game. But Fist of Havoc, I have been playing this game for half a decade now. For over half a decade now. And Fist of Havoc has never been meta. never been meta. Never. How do you fail at making a super meta on Titan? Now, has it had its use? I'm talking about in PvE specifically. It has had its moments to shine in PvP or in Gambit and rare situations. But, like, holy shit, Fist of Havoc has always been fucking bad. Like, Thunder Crash is forever in the sun. Solaire is praising Thunder Crash. And then you have, Burning Maul had its time in the sun when Power Gale's released. Hammers, it's great. Oh, it's been great. Axes had its brief time. Surprisingly enough, Bubble had its time during the Deep Stone Crypt shenanigans. Sentinel Shield, Tritorcade shenanigans. Stasis Tide has had its time to shine. Lisa Super, Straya Tide, Super's good. Can't Fist of Havoc ever be good in the span of 5 fucking years? And honestly, like, how? How? And light attacks now increase the next heavy attack's damage. Wow. By how much? We need to know. Because if it's a wimpy ass fucking buff, this thing needs a damage buff to shit. Because let me tell you, the build that I used Fist of Havoc with and Syntheseps, holy shit, was it still bad. Fist of Havoc was still bad. With Syntheseps, it was still bad. Because a heavy attack would nuke everything nearby, so it would remove the Syntheseps buff. Then, you melee, and then after that initial cast, it's just so awful. It's just so dog shit. The Stasis, when used during the super, increased super energy cost from 5 to 15%. This is a needed nerf, but it is a nerf. You should have put buffs, nerf. But Strand PvP only change. This does not matter to me. But that's my rant paused for Titan. Now let's go look and see what the Hunters got. Let's see what the Hunters got. Hunters, y'all need it. Trust me, y'all do need it. But y'all need more survivability help. I'm gonna just be real. Y'all need survivability help. Okay, Hunter, Gunslinger, Golden Gun, Dead Shot, and 6-shooter super. Okay, increased damage against non-bosses by 50%. Okay, increased damage against boss commands by 26%. This change removes the disparity between boss damage and non-boss damage. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Golden Gun projectiles now scorch targets. When fired inside of Well of Radiance, Golden Gun now counts as radiant for increased damage. Okay, that's a nice quality of life change. What makes me curious is this going? Oh, that's interesting because you're probably get an ignition off. That's an interesting Golden Gun change. Like Blade Barrage, this person my favorite, but increased damage against combatants by 39%. I guess boss, that sucks. I don't know enough about the knives. Acrobat's Dodge. Increased passive energy regenerated PvE by 11 and 12%. Okay. Cooldown now matches Gambler's Dodge. This change allows you to buff your teammates more often. Okay. Gunpowder Gamble. Shooting the dynamite in midair now increases damage, expands the radius, and creates some munitions. Okay, that's nice. Instead of just throwing it as an extra grenade. I like that. Void Hunter. Void Hunter, I'm not gonna lie, that melee is ass. That melee is fucking ass. Okay. Shadow Shot, Deadfall. Tether Source now attaches to commands on direct impact. Increased weaken effect from 30 to 35%. Deadfall Tether is now the strongest weaken in the game. Interesting. I believe Tractor is 30? No, immediately weakens and suppresses enemies in an area of effect on impact. Okay. Mobius Quiver. While the super is active, dealing damage now increases the power of subsequent Shadow Shot attacks and bow weapons. Okay, interesting. No. This puts a bar on your screen that charges as you deal damage. When charged, your final shot or final 2 shots with Orpheus Rig deals significantly increased damage, turning into one of the highest damage supers in the game. Okay. Okay. Increase the base super duration. Okay. Smoke Bomb. Increase projectile lifetime. Boost layer smoke. Still not giving Void Hunters a new melee. Okay. I see how it is. Void Hunters just need a new melee that actually does damage. Ah! Why can't there be like a Void Knife or something? Arcstrider. Storm's Edge, passive energy regeneration increased. Tempest Strike, Astrid reduced damage against players. Okay. Archer's Hold needs survivability. Stasis, Revenant. We have 2 Revenant changes for you this time around, but they're impactful ones. Shadow Dive, shattering stasis crystals, or enemies now grants frost armor. Okay. Silence of Squall, increased damage against combatants for 63%. That's pretty good. Strand. Widow's Silk, looking at a grapple tangle for a short time, now overrides your grenade ability with a free non-offensive grapple. I want to know how long that lasts for. This allows you to give grapple capabilities to fellow guardians who don't have Strand or grapple equipped. Wow! Wow! Grapple tangles created near the ground now rise into the air shortly after creation. Interesting. Grapple tangle. Okay, that's some interesting stuff. Okay, Silk Strike Super, passive regenerator, and damage resist. Okay. Increased ammo pickup range. That's good. That's PvP only change. Okay. Hunter's got some pretty nice buffs, I'm not gonna lie. Warlock, Solar, Dawnblade, increased damage against combatants by 20%. That's great. Projectile Star Scorch, enemies of default, that's pretty good as well. Voidwalker, Nova Warp, change their primary attack, now pulls enemies towards the Warlock. Nova Warp, finally at least a usable super. Increased primary attack damage against combatants by 50%. Dark Blink now releases Weakening Seekers. Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, Vortex Super now repeatedly pulls enemies towards it during its lifetime. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, some nice buffs. Stormcaller. Storm Chant Super increased maximum sustained damage bonus from 50% to 65. Increased landfall jolt duration. Okay. Chaos Reach. Increased damage against combatants. This needs to include bosses. I'm being real, because the boss damage on Chaos Reach is lackluster. Ionic Sentry no longer blinds the user on creation, which is nice. Lightning Surge. Reduce damage against players. Okay. Stasis. Winter's Wrath Super. Increased Shadow Wave damage against frozen targets by a lot. That's great. Frost Pulse. Okay. Okay. Strand, Broodreaver, Needlestorm. Needles now prioritize bosses, mini-boss, and champions over other enemies. That's great. All Warlock subclasses. Healing Rift and Empowering Rift can now be cast while moving! Finally! Increased Rift radius from 3.5 meters to 5 meters. That's fantastic! Empowering Rift, increased melee and grenade recharge rate. That's so nice in the Rift. Okay, that's great. Also, you want to see how Titan got nothing? Got nothing. Okay, general abilities. Bullets Arrestor Grenade. No longer suppress users. That's nice. Increase detonation. Is it going to make suppressor use at all? No. Spike Grenade. Now tested grenades. To combatants. Whatever. Biggest changes here. Reducing negative stat of Echo Undermining from -20 to -10. Provision and Exchange now give +10 grenade and +10 melee respectively. Provision gives extra melee energy upon grenade kills, and exchanges melee attacks or kills gives grenade, which is nice. Removing the negative stats from all other fragments except Echo Starvation and Persistence. That's great, because holy, they do need to buff the amount of fragment slots some of the aspects give off Void too, at least on Titan. Updated visuals on invisibility to be slightly more visible. That's great. Overshield enemy VFX now scales with Overshield's remaining health. That's great for PvP. Now Arc. Lightning Grenade now attaches to combatants. Completely useless. I'm gonna skip Flashbang. Strand Threatlings. Threatlings will no longer lose their target before impact. Or well, that lose their target before impact will land and look for another combatant instead of exploding. That is so nice for Strand Warlock, for like Broodweavers and that sort of stuff. That is so nice. Now Flashbang. No longer blinds the user and increased detonation damage by 10%. That is huge. That is huge. The detonation damage is not super important, but no longer blinds the user is so nice, because it basically sort of took you out of the game for a while, or it caused you to become putted. So, yeah. So, yeah. Titan mains, let me know what y'all think about these Titan changes. As far as Hunter mains go. Hunters, y'all got a lot of pretty solid changes. Y'all got a pretty solid suite of buffs and whatnot. Especially Solar and Void got some pretty decent help. Nothing else really changed drastically, but y'all got some really good buffs. And Warlocks, y'all probably got the biggest set of like changes and shit. Strand is gonna feel a lot better to use. And more specifically, Void Supers are like better as far as using them. Like Nova Warp might not officially be the worst super in the entire game. Fist of Havoc might pick that title back up. So congratulations, Warlocks. Y'all might not have the worst super in the entire game anymore. Hunters, Spectral Blades is still in contention. So Hunters, Titans, we're all gonna have to duke it out for who has the worst super in the entire game. Spectral Blades or Fist of Havoc. We're gonna have to see. There's also, oh my goodness, I have so many issues with Fist of Havoc, but we'll get there when we get there. But all in all, I'm sorry, my Titan brethren, we got absolutely shafted on these changes. No exotics that really many Titans use as a whole got really changed except for Wolfsbane. And of course, all the exotic armor changes are not super drastic enough to stop using what we are already using. And as far as, obviously, as you saw from the subclass stuff, the only impactful change is Void Fragments, but like, you really couldn't do anything? Couldn't do anything here? Couldn't do anything here? What? Now, as far as the Star Wars expansion goes, I'm going to try not to use Solar. I'm going to try my best not to use Solar. I'm going to try my best to not use Capri's Horn. But Bungie has really not done shit to make me stop using what I'm using already. When something is too good and feels too fun to use, I need something that's at least semi-comparable. I'm going to try to use... the order of operations is... I'm probably going to try to use Legend of Acris and that setup first before I try to use anything else. But honestly, I might just use Banner of War and whatnot. Well, you know what? We'll kind of see where things are, how I'm feeling. In my opinion, what I would have done here, the only thing I would have done for Solar is buff Pyrogales, like buff Burning Maul's damage. It's too low. It's way too low. I would buff it by like close to, well, okay, 100% is okay. How I would make it work is I would buff the damage by 100% if you do not have Roaring Flames equipped. And then I would have it buff itself. I would buff it by like 20 to 30% if you do have Roaring Flames equipped. That's how drastic I make that shit. That's all I would do. For Void, Bubble needs buffs. I don't know why. Like, what? Arc does need some survivability help. How I would have changed Fist of Havoc, if that's what their goal was, I would have let the shoulder charge have increased distance traveled. So, like, you can hold the shoulder charge button down to travel a little bit further. And it doesn't burn that much super energy to do so. But that's probably the biggest issue, is you kind of have to do some sprinting before you even get to another enemy. And that's not something you really have to do with the other roaming supers on Titan, at least. So that's what I would have changed as well, and it massively increased Fist of Havoc's damage. And then for Stasis, I think this is a fine change. I don't think Stasis Titan needs much changes. And for Screen Titan, I don't think it needs much changes either. But I'm very disappointed that Bungie has not done anything to change Titan in any meaningful way. And also, not Nook though, thanks for tuning in. Those are all of the changes. Sorry Titans, we got shafted. Hunters, though, do deserve the buffs. And Warlocks got some really, really nice solid quality of life changes. But obviously, this is not a new thing here. No one at Bungie plays Titan. But he's a Hunter or a Warlock. No one at Bungie plays Titan. And so, on that note, though, thanks for tuning in, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.